So when I first started cinematography, I obviously wanted to make these beautiful sunlit scenes, and what I'd do, I'd stick a hot sunlight right out the window and it was beautiful and golden. Well, as I've progressed and as I've learned more, I've realized that it's kind of all wrong, and I'm gonna tell you why. So I've got this sunlight scene here, but news to you, it's all a lie. It's actually middle of the night right now. But I'm gonna walk through a little bit of how we got to this point, but I really wanna focus on sunlight and why your sun may not look like sun. What I mean by that is being accurate to true daylight. So let's go ahead and break into that. Camera we're working with, I'll just give you guys a quick rundown. If you're curious, it's the Blackmagic Pixis that we're running it on, and I'm running it on the Blaze Arcados. Reason, because the PL filter that I have, it doesn't fit my spherical lenses, so all I can run are these Blazars. These are something I'm really excited about. They didn't send them to me, I just went out to the rental house. It's the CRLS, the Light Bridge reflectors. And all it is these big mirror boards. They've got different variations. They've got, I think these are the 50s, which are 50 centimeters. They've got smaller variations as well. These are something that I would love to use all the time. Lightbridge, if you're watching this, call me. So we're starting here with your coffee mug. You know, you're coming out, day's amazing, yada, yada, yada. You come over here, you stroll across, you're like, huh, what kind of day is it? You peek outside, sweet. So you're thinking the sun is way far away in the sky. So it doesn't matter if you're standing right here or if you're standing here, it's gonna be the same brightness.
Howdy. I'm sorry you have to see us like this. Listen, we're editing right now, and I want to say something I forgot to say in the video. We're all thinking of the windows dark. Obviously, that's one thing that I missed. I did that just for the sake of my neighbors and speed. It was just me. The purpose for me was just showing you guys the quality of the sunlight coming through the window and not what we see necessarily through the window. Two things I would have done to do that is either blast light into the subject, which is my neighbor's house. Not gonna do that. That would just illuminate the house and make it look like it's daylight. The other option is putting like a white bounce that's out there and shooting into that white bounce just so it's illuminated and at least white. I didn't want to do that either, just for the neighbors and the sake of time. So on behalf of Sunday, we both apologize. Please don't blow me up in the comments. I know the window's dark, but you guys get the point. I love you.
So when she starts here, I don't want this amount of sunlight to be too drastically different walking across here to the point. And you can see that right here with this kind of wash. If you look at here and here, I'd say it's a pretty comparable exposure because that light is all the way across the yard. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna make a move. We're gonna do kind of what I did in the beginning years of me being a cinematographer, and I'm gonna stick that light right outside the window. And we're gonna see how drastic this light is actually gonna change. So what we're looking at for our sunlight is this Aperture 1200X, and I've got this probably 30 or 40 feet from the window here. So I've got that with the narrow dish pretty high in the sky on this combo stand, and you can see what it's doing here. It's coming here, this is our window. We've got it blasting in here across the wallpaper, and we can see how we cheated that with the CRLS just to bounce the light just a little bit further, just to hit onto that table, because I just wanted to bend a little bit more attention to where she is reading with the book. I'm gonna bring everything down, and we're just gonna make the move. All right. So this is something that I would have done a handful of years ago when I started. Let's just stick it right here, because in theory you're like, sun's bright, you want to get it as close to the window as you can because that's going to be as bright as you can. But we're going to go inside and we're going to see all of these imperfections. So you can see that it's already, I mean, we're not going to adjust the output at all. We're just going to keep the exposure here for a minute, and we're going to go see the difference that it's going to make. So again, the output is exactly the same as it was 40 feet away. We're going to adjust that in a second, but you can already see there's a lot going on here. One, it's incredibly hot on me right here. This is probably way overexposed, but then by the time I come over here, this light falls off so much, and even though I'm getting hit with it, it's probably like a few stops different in light. And that's something that you can see as it spans across this wall here. It's so bright here, you even get this hot spot, and then by the time it gets over here, it's fallen off, and you're not getting nearly as much character to it. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna bring that down so we can actually see what's going on here. You see our shadow lines? They're not nearly the same either. Super sharp here, and it already is gonna fade away. You can also see the direction that they're going. This is going way down. This is pointing at the ground. This is pointing straight across. When the sun's far away, it's gonna be linear all the way through. For reference, the light before was at like 90% way far away. It's at 5% now. We're really starting to get into the details of, you could call it light physics and how sunlight looks normally. So we're gonna run it through at 5% here. Some are you're just gonna do the same old thing. And for reference, guys, all the other lights are at the same output. I haven't changed a thing except for our sun. Everything else is gonna stay constant. At her A mark at the beginning of the stairs, you're still getting a nice golden glow, but you can see the drastic differences. It's a lot dimmer. It's just not gonna look as if the sun is really blasting into here. You can see how drastic it is when she gets her face up to the window. It's super bright. And again, we really see these shadows along the wall. They're kind of like going at an angle instead of just being linear, like a sun is just cutting into the house. And that's just because that light reflector is right up against the window. And the last thing I want to say before we make our mess, you're also not getting as wide of a spread. Right here, the sun is hitting me. I can kind of see the side of this 1200X, but that beam being narrow, it's really only hitting about right here. So this is, again, one of the benefits of having these bright lights. The ability to run a 1200 watt all the way out there is definitely, I guess you could say, a luxury. So don't feel like this is discouraging us. It's just kind of giving you an idea of, hey, I want like really proper sun. Let me go rent like a ARRI M40. And that's a crazy 4K light that's gonna be extremely bright. So it's just things to think about. Hey, if you need brighter lights to make this look really polished and professional, could be something where you even rent lights, rent a 1200, rent a 1000 or anything like that to really get yourself the output that you need. Okay, but say we're in a situation where, you know, you've got the output, but you don't have the distance. We don't have a full yard to put things in. Maybe you're on a balcony, maybe you've just got a fence that's right here. You can see our objective essentially is get the head of our source as far away as possible. And that's where these mirrors come into play. What we're gonna do is we're gonna shoot this guy from super low. We're gonna probably stick it right here, blast it straight into this, and then it's gonna hit off of that wall. Say we can't get the light further than here. Say there's a wall or a fence right here. What that's doing is instead of just us having the head of our light right here and then blasting into here, what is that? 10 feet away from the wall that's inside. Let's double that beam distance, and now we're gonna stick this from the ground off the mirror and into the wall. And that's gonna do the same thing as extending that beam, so our fall off of light is gonna be a lot more minimal. So what I'm gonna do is I want this mirror to fall probably in the same place that our head was. So we're gonna stick this out of the way. Okay, so now I'm gonna stick this right about here because that's our limit that I gave myself. If I stick the light right here, yeah, something like that. So my goal is to take this guy and stick the hot spot right there. And I can see it's hitting the house. So there's that. Again, it's not gonna be identical because the light's coming from a completely different place. But if I bring this up, we're starting to get what looks familiar of the first take. So you can see here, we're looking at a lot more similar of an output as is to here, and our quality is gonna be a lot better. And that's because that light is no longer just 10 feet away from me or even 6 feet away from me right here. That light is you're adding in the distance, the 10 feet that it's got to go up and then travel out 10 more feet to me. So it's extending that beam using a mirror, and it's the whole inverse square law. I'm not going to go into that in this entire video. That's its own dedicated video of light physics. But essentially, that's the goal here. If we don't have 40 yards to spare, you have a little bit of power to play with. So doing something like this might buy you a little bit more output as well. Essentially, the name of the game here is if you can, if you've got the output, the further your light away is from your subject, from your window, whatever it is, the better you're gonna have kind of this roll off of light, the authenticity of your shadows and your texture and detail, stuff like that. But don't feel like you can't do this as an option. Don't want it to come off that way. If all you've got is 150 watt light, then run it. Like I said earlier, it's better to have some sunlight than no sunlight at all. I just went over sunlight because it's really evident the differences of all the shadow detail, but think of it as light in general. Utilize mirrors. If you don't have the CRLS, that's okay. Get mirror boards, just be careful, don't break them. Maybe wrap them in saran wrap or something like that. But there's options, guys. So that's all I got for you guys in this video. Hope it helps you think about sunlight differently. And well, I'll see you in the next video. And go check out whether or not, I don't know which video is gonna come first, also the entire breakdown of this entire scene, because I'm gonna cover that as well, because there's some really fun treats in here.